I want to start with something that might surprise you. Most of what we have been taught about anger is wrong. We have been taught that anger is a problem to be managed, a feeling to be suppressed, a sign of poor character if it gets too big. We have been taught to apologize for it, to hide it, to be ashamed of it. And so generations of people have grown up at war with their own anger, treating it like a disease they hope they do not catch too badly. But anger is not a disease. Anger is information. Anger is, when you listen to it carefully, one of the most useful emotions you have. And the fact that we have been trying to mute it has cost us more than we realize. Today, I want to walk you through what your anger is actually trying to tell you, because the anger itself is not the message. The anger is the messenger. And if you only ever fight the messenger, you never get to read the letter. By the end of this video, I want you to have a completely different relationship with the heat in your chest, the tightness in your jaw, the impulse to push back. I want you to be able to listen to it instead of being afraid of it. Stay with me. Let me begin with something foundational. Anger almost always shows up when a line has been crossed. The line might be small. The line might be huge. The line might be one you did not know you had until it got crossed. But the anger is the body's signal that something happened that you, on some level, are not okay with. When someone interrupts you for the 5th time in a meeting and you feel a flash of heat, that is information. The heat is telling you, my presence is being erased here and I do not consent to that. When a partner makes a small joke at your expense and you feel a sting that surprises you with its intensity, that is information. The sting is telling you this is not how I want to be spoken to, even if I have been pretending it was fine. When a parent says something dismissive about your work and you feel the old familiar rage, that is information. The rage is telling you, I am still wanting to be seen by this person, and I am still not being seen. The problem is that most of us were trained to ignore this signal, to mute it, to apologize for it. We were told that we were being too sensitive. We were told to calm down. We were told that good people do not get angry. So we learned to push the signal down. But the signal does not disappear when you push it down. It just gets quieter and stays underground, where it does much more damage than it would have done if it had been allowed to surface. Anger that is not listened to does not go away. It transforms. It becomes resentment, which is anger that has been swallowed for too long. It becomes depression, which is sometimes anger turned inward against the self. It becomes physical illness because the body holds what the mind refuses to acknowledge. It becomes passive aggression because the anger has to come out somewhere, and if it cannot come out cleanly, it comes out crooked. It becomes the inexplicable explosion at someone who did not deserve it, because all the swallowed anger from the previous 6 weeks finally finds an outlet. None of these are anger gone away. They are anger gone underground. And once it is underground, it controls your life from a place you cannot see. So the first thing your anger is trying to tell you is, pay attention, a line has been crossed. The question is, which line? Let me walk through what anger is usually telling you, depending on the form it takes. The first message anger often carries is, my boundary has been violated. Someone has done something to you that you do not consent to. They have taken your time. They have touched your body without permission. They have used your name in a way you did not authorize. They have ignored a request you made. The anger is the body's protest. The body is saying, this is not okay with me. If you ignore that message, you teach yourself that your boundaries are negotiable. If you listen, you can communicate the boundary, sometimes calmly, sometimes firmly, but always clearly. The point is not to express the anger at full volume. The point is to honor the information the anger is providing. The boundary exists. State it. Defend it. The anger calms down, often instantly, when the boundary is actually defended, because the body knows it is not alone anymore. You are taking your own side. The second message anger often carries is, my value is being treated as less than. This is the anger that flares when you are dismissed, talked over, condescended to, treated like you do not matter. The anger is telling you that some part of you is refusing to accept the framing being imposed on you. The framing says you are small. Your anger says you are not. This anger is sacred, and it is one of the most useful tools you have for protecting your self-respect. The work is not to suppress it. The work is to use it. Sometimes that means saying something in the moment. Sometimes that means leaving the room. Sometimes that means reevaluating the relationship. But you have to listen first. You have to let your anger tell you that what just happened was a violation of your worth, and that you do not have to accept the framing. The third message anger often carries is, I am scared. This one is a little less obvious, but it is enormously important. Anger and fear are often two faces of the same underlying signal. The body senses a threat. It can respond by freezing, by running, or by fighting. When we feel anger, we are often in the fight response, which is the body's attempt to protect itself by mobilizing aggressive energy. Underneath that aggressive energy, however, is fear. Fear of being hurt, fear of being abandoned, fear of losing something you love, fear of being seen as inadequate. If you can ask yourself, when angry, what am I afraid of right now? You often discover something tender underneath. And once you find the fear, you can address the fear directly, instead of just acting out the anger. The anger does not need to be suppressed. It needs to be translated. Translation is the work. The fourth message anger often carries is, I have been making myself too small for too long. This anger is the one that erupts after months or years of accommodation. You have been agreeable. You have been flexible. You have been understanding. You have been the one who gives, who adjusts, who lets things slide. And one day, over something small, you explode. The explosion seems disproportionate, and people around you may treat you like you are crazy for reacting so strongly. But the explosion is not actually about the small thing. The explosion is the accumulated cost of years of self-abandonment finally surfacing. The anger is telling you that the accommodation has gone too far, and that you have lost yourself in the service of being agreeable. The remedy is not to apologize for the explosion. The remedy is to stop the accommodating that produced it. Start showing up smaller increments of yourself earlier in conversations. Start saying no to the small requests. Start expressing disagreement when you feel it. The slow practice of taking up your real size in real time prevents the explosion from being the only way you can finally take up space. The fifth message anger often carries is, this reminds me of something old. This is the anger that surprises you with its size. Someone does something fairly minor and you find yourself enraged out of proportion. When this happens, the current situation has touched an old wound. The other person reminded you in a small way of someone from your past who hurt you in a much bigger way. Your anger is not really about them. It is the old anger, finally finding a place to come out. This is not their fault, and it is not your fault either. But it is information you need. The work is to see the pattern, to recognize that part of what is happening is in the past, to address the old hurt directly, in therapy or in journaling, instead of taking out the old anger on the person who triggered it. If you do not separate the old from the new, you keep punishing current people for ancient crimes, and you exhaust yourself fighting battles that ended decades ago. So those are some of the messages anger carries. Now I want to talk about what to actually do with the information. The first practice is to feel anger in the body before you speak. When you feel the heat rise, before you say anything, put your attention on your body. Notice where the anger is sitting: the chest, the face, the hands, the throat. Breathe into it. Let it be there for 60 seconds before you respond. This is not suppression. It is processing. The first 60 seconds of anger are usually the rawest, and speaking in those 60 seconds usually produces things you regret. After 60 seconds, the anger is still there, but it has organized itself. It has settled into a clearer form. You can then speak from that form, instead of from the chaotic surge. The simple practice of waiting 1 minute before you respond when angry will change your life, your relationships, and your career. The second practice is to ask, before you act, what is the line that was crossed? Get specific. Not, they made me angry. Specifically, when they did X, it felt like Y was being violated. The specificity helps in two ways. It helps you communicate what you actually need to communicate, instead of just lashing out. And it also helps you recognize when the line you thought was crossed was actually not crossed, and you are reacting to something inside you rather than to the actual situation. Both outcomes are valuable. The clarity makes the response better. The third practice is to speak from your anger, not as your anger. This is a subtle distinction. Speaking as anger means yelling, accusing, attacking. Speaking from anger means using the energy and clarity that anger provides to communicate what is true for you with care. I am angry and I want to tell you why. When you did that thing, it hurt me. I need to talk about what happened. These sentences are honest. They carry the energy of the anger, but they do not use the anger as a weapon. The anger becomes fuel for honesty, not fuel for harm. The fourth practice, and maybe the most important, is to give yourself permission to be angry in the first place. So many of us, especially those raised to be agreeable, especially those socialized to keep the peace, have internalized a belief that we are not allowed to be angry. We immediately move to shame as soon as anger arises. We tell ourselves we are being unreasonable, dramatic, difficult. The shame eats the anger, but it does not eat the cause of the anger. So the situation that produced the anger continues, while we beat ourselves up for noticing it. Stop. You are allowed to be angry. Your anger is not a flaw. It is one of your most loyal protectors. It is telling you, again and again, what you cannot tolerate. Listen to it. Honor it. Use it. I want to add a fifth practice that I think is essential. Find healthy outlets for the physical charge of anger. Anger is, at the body level, a surge of energy. Your nervous system is preparing you to fight. That energy has to go somewhere. If it does not move through the body, it gets stuck, and that stuck energy is what fuels resentment, illness, and explosion. So move it. Walk hard. Run. Punch a pillow. Lift weights. Scream into a towel in your car. Dance until you sweat. Cut wood. These are not silly suggestions. They are physiological hygiene. The animal in you needs to discharge the energy. Once the body has moved the charge through, the cognitive part of you can think more clearly about what to say and what to do. People who skip this step often say things they regret because they are trying to think their way through anger that is still surging in the body. Move the body first. Speak from clarity second. I also want to mention something about anger and gender because I think the conversation is incomplete without it. Many cultures train women and girls to be especially afraid of their anger. Anger in women is often labeled as hysterical, dramatic, unattractive. Many men, conversely, are trained to express only anger and to suppress every other emotion, so that anger becomes the one feeling they have access to, and it covers everything else. Both patterns are harmful. If you are a woman who has been taught that your anger is unbecoming, please know that your anger is not the problem. The training was the problem. If you are a man who has been taught that anger is the only acceptable feeling, please know that there is more underneath the anger. And accessing what is underneath is one of the most freeing things you can do. The path forward in both cases is the same. Make peace with the full range of your emotional life. Anger is one note in the chord, not the whole song. I want to address something important before I close. There is a real difference between anger as information and anger as a destructive force. The point of this video is not to encourage you to be a more aggressive person. The point is to encourage you to be a more honest person, to yourself first and then in your relationships. If your anger is regularly leading you to harm others, physically or verbally, please get support for that. The same intelligence that anger carries can also be misused, and abusive anger is a real problem that deserves real intervention. What I am talking about here is the quiet anger that you have been suppressing, that has been trying to give you information about your own life that has not been listened to. Listening is the work. Listening is what makes anger your ally instead of your enemy. I will leave you with this. Anger is not the opposite of love. Anger is part of love. The people who love you well have been angry on your behalf when others treated you poorly. You have been angry on behalf of people you love when life was unfair to them. Anger is what shows up when we sense that something we care about is being threatened or violated. So the question is not whether to be angry. The question is what your anger is telling you and what you will do with the information. The world needs your anger, when it is clear, when it is honest, when it is used in the service of dignity, of justice, of self-respect. Do not be ashamed of it. Get fluent in it. It will save you, again and again, throughout your life. If this resonated with you, please give the video a like. It really helps me reach more people who have been taught to fear their own anger. And if you want more videos like this, where we look at the parts of ourselves we were trained to silence, please subscribe. I have a lot more to share, and I would love to keep walking through it with you. Before I let you go, one last reflection. Look at the anger you have been carrying lately. Not the explosive kind, but the low simmer that lives in the back of your day. The irritation at a coworker. The flash when someone close to you says the same thing for the 100th time. The flatness with a partner you can no longer fully feel. All of it is information. All of it is asking you a question. The question is, what part of your life are you tolerating that some part of you no longer consents to? The anger is not asking you to burn anything down. It is asking you to look, to notice, to stop pretending. The looking is the whole work. Once you actually look, the right next step almost always becomes visible. Sometimes it is a conversation. Sometimes it is a boundary. Sometimes it is a change. But the anger, listened to, will not lead you wrong. Take care of yourself this week. The next time anger rises in you, do not push it away. Sit with it. Ask what it is telling you. Trust that it is on your side even when it is uncomfortable. I will see you in the next one.